Well, this review is going to be more complicated than I originally expected.
And the winner is...
I got loyalty inside my DNA.
Hi, this is Michael Jackson.
I got loyalty inside my DNA. I got trouble, peace, got war and peace inside my DNA. I got power, poison, pain, and joy inside my DNA. Hey! This is more like this immaculate conception. I just feel like this, perform like this without you a new weapon. I don't contemplate, I meditate, then off your bed. This that people kiss the bed. This that I got loyalty inside my DNA.
All right, welcome to Tait's Take. If you're new here, today we're talking about the new Michael Jackson biopic, Michael. If that's something you're into, hit that subscribe button for your boy. For my regular Tait's Takers, look, I can't believe we're finally here either. Okay, kind of quick background here, just in case this is your first time hearing anything about a Michael Jackson movie, which, like, I got you, but come on, bro. And if you're not familiar with my reviews, I like to give as much background and context on the making of the film and the subject matter before I give my opinion on it. I'll start with that, then I'll give my thoughts on the film, and if time permits, I'll tell you a little bit about my time in Berlin at the global fan celebration premiere. Does that sound fair? Just wanna, give you the disclaimer that we are indeed taking the scenic route around here. All right, so boom. Michael is a biopic that's brought to us by Academy Award-winning producer Graham King. Graham King was also famously the producer behind Bohemian Rhapsody, the Queen biopic. Graham has been friends with the Jackson family for years. He acquired the rights to this Michael Jackson story some time back. But of course, if you want to tell a Michael Jackson story, you have the hardest casting job in all of cinema. So Graham sits down with Jafar Jackson one day and asks him will he be interested in playing this role of his uncle. Please note that Jafar Jackson, who plays Michael Jackson, is the son of Jermaine Jackson, brother of Michael Jackson. Jafar Jackson's mom is a woman named Alejandra, ex-wife of Jermaine Jackson, who also has 2 children with another one of Michael's brothers, Randy Jackson. But that's not important. So Jafar tells my man Graham, thanks but no thanks, bud. I'm not an actor. I never wanted to be an actor. Graham tells Jafar in very serious Hollywood jargon, pretty please with a cherry on top. And Jafar agrees to think about it while starting to prepare for this role to see if he could even do it. So he starts watching all these Mike vids, working on the moves, learning the songs. He even got with an acting coach named Amanda Gibbs, who for my OGs happens to be the daughter of Marla Gibbs from 227 and the Jeffersons. Down the line, Graham King reaches out to Antoine Fuqua about directing this Michael Jackson movie. Graham didn't even think he could get a director like Antoine Fuqua, but they have a mutual friend that connected them. Antoine Fuqua, as you should know, directed Training Day. So Antoine Fuqua is like, yeah, I'm interested, but who are you going to get to play Michael Jackson? Unbeknownst to Antoine, Jafar Jackson's been working on this Michael role for months already. So Graham King has his people send over some footage to Antoine's director of photography. They're like, watch this. Antoine Fuqua is like, how the hell did you get modern footage of Michael Jackson? They're like, nah, bruh. That's Jafar Jackson, his nephew. Now Antoine Fuqua is looking like,
What the hell did you just say?
and so it was. The Michael movie had its star, it had its director, and we had Lionsgate as our studio. Down the line, more of the main cast was announced. Nia Long is going to be playing the matriarch Katherine Jackson. Coleman Domingo playing Joe Jackson. Giuliano Cruvaldi playing young Michael. Miles Teller playing John Branca. Lorenz Tate playing Barry Gordy. Laura Harrier playing Suzanne DePass. Kendrick Sampson as Quincy Jones. Kaylin Darrell Jones as Bill Bray. The list goes on. Now, we have our producer, creator, Graham King. We have our director, Antoine Fuqua. And we also had our writer, John Logan, who you may not know by name, but he's been nominated for 3 Academy Awards for writing Gladiator, The Aviator, and Hugo. So just know that. He also wrote Any Given Sunday, which did not earn him a nomination from the Academy, but damn sure earned him one from the hood. So respect. Now we have our studio, we have our cast, we have our crew, and finally, we had our release date of April 18th, 2025. We even had attendees of CinemaCon 2024 treated to a first look of footage from the movie that created a huge buzz around the film industry and also the fandom because we were thirsty as fuck for anything beyond those first images that we got. Unfortunately, though, that buzz was short-lived. Updates began to slow, release dates slipped, and rumors swirled that after both Graham King and Antoine Fuqua stated that the allegations would for sure play a role in the film, turns out that there was a clause in the 1993 settlement with the Chandler family that said their story could never be used in a movie. Good Lord. Talk about a fucking fumble. Who missed that? Now, that's just what was reported. Lionsgate, Graham King, Antoine Fuqua, they've never stated on record that's what happened. That's just what the reports was reporting. More on that later, though. So the movie had to be remixed. Instead of going deep into the 90s and maybe even beyond, reshoots were ordered, and the movie was set to now end at the bad tour of the late 80s. We had our third and final release date of April 24th, 2026, and somehow, some way, we've made it to being just days away from the world finally seeing Michael. So what's my take? Well, like I said, it's complicated, but we're talking about Michael Jackson. What else is new? First and foremost, let me just say this full stop, no stuttering, no caveats. As some of you may know, I watched this movie about a week and some change ago at the Berlin premiere. And when those credits were rolling, I tweeted this. This is the best biopic of all time. Shameless plug that exact tweet was picked up by Lionsgate and used in their promotions. No big deal, just the first time I was ever quoted, and it was by the movie that meant the most to me in all my days. But yeah, I really meant that shit. I had the time of my life in there. I had just come off the red carpet talking to some of the cast and the crew, surrounded by hundreds of Michael Jackson fans. I had never been to Berlin, let alone Germany, the most foreign of places, and I haven't felt that at home in years. That was my experience. That's where the tweet came from. I thought the film was excellent, but it was amplified by the experience, and to me, they are one and the same. Now, for the time being, I will take off my Berlin hat, I'll take off my one MJ fan glove, and I'll just talk about what really worked for me in the movie and some of the things that I think could have been better. First things first, Jafar Jackson. The man who has never acted before a day in his life became Michael Jackson. In speaking with some of Michael's brothers on that same red carpet, they told me that they all got to watch the movie together as a family, and they couldn't believe that they weren't watching Michael himself. Queen Catherine Jackson told Jafar that she thought the film was phenomenal. I say all that to say, Jafar doesn't need to hear it from some random YouTube critic. He already received the highest of praise. He was doing so much more than imitating Michael. There's such a distinct line between MJ impersonators and Mike. These guys are super talented, but you're never confused about what you're seeing. You're watching someone pretend to be the biggest star in history. Seeing Jafar move in this movie, listening to him speak in this movie is such a clear separation from him and those other guys. Like, how many actors, comedians, whoever, do the soft Michael Jackson voice? 9 times out of 10, just sounds like they're making fun of him. Jafar found a way to take the comedy out of it and refused to let it take audiences out of the context of what he was saying. It's unbelievable. And however big of a hater the next reviewer you watch is, they too will tell you that Jafar did an excellent job. And before there was adult Mike, of course, there was young Mike. And for another first-time actor, Giuliano played this kid perfectly. In case you didn't know, Giuliano was a Michael Jackson impersonator. Yeah, this kid's been doing Mike moves his whole life. But being good at the moonwalk ain't gonna help you when you gotta act out a terrifying scene with Joe Jackson. I expected to be impressed by his Jackson 5 dance moves. I was shocked at how good his more serious scenes were. Next up, speaking of Joe Jackson, let's get into Michael's parents, played by Coleman Domingo and Nia Long. First and foremost, my favorite scenes of the whole movie were all those quiet moments between Catherine and Michael, really driving home how close they were and how sometimes in the entire family, she was the only person he could turn to. And when it wasn't Catherine and Michael, Nia Long was saying so much without saying much at all when it came to her interactions with Coleman Domingo as Joseph. I would hope that Jafar Jackson gets some Oscar love next year, but next to him should be Coleman Domingo. as complicated a character as Michael is, Joe Jackson is right up there with him.
I need to think.
I told you what to think.
The narrative around Joe Jackson is him often unfairly painted as this angry, abusive father that didn't see his kids as anything but a paycheck when he wasn't beating their ass. And I mean, yeah, I can see where that comes from, but what else is new? A member of the Jackson family is misunderstood? Now, Joe Jackson wasn't my father, but I would imagine he had some room for improvement in that category. But I also can't ignore the fact that this was a black man raising 9 children under one roof. A roof that covered a house that was 672 square feet during the civil rights movement of the 1960s in Gary, Indiana. And I'm not saying it's okay to beat your kids because that's how you grew up or that's what happened in those days. I'm just saying I think it's important to recognize that context. And the movie and Coleman both do a good job of trying to explain that nuance in his character. Of course, a quick rest in peace moment to Joe Jackson, who passed away in 2018 due to complications from pancreatic cancer. Some of you may know that a portion of all Tait's Take proceeds goes to PanCan. This is the organization that works tirelessly to extend the lives of those that suffer with the disease. So yeah, just a quick moment of condolence there. Okay, those are my 4 casting highlights. Just good casting all around. That also needs to be something this movie is awarded for. The next shout out goes to our hair, makeup, and costume team. It's such a huge part of biopics, and for someone like Michael Jackson, you can imagine how critical it is. And I think this team of Carla Farmer on hair, Bill Corso on makeup, and Marcy Rogers on costumes did an amazing job and should be recognized for it. All right, last but not least, when it comes to things I loved about the movie, it's the thing that most people will leave the theater praising: the performances. They got Michael's actual choreographers, Rich and Tone Talawega, to work with the cast, making sure the moves were perfect. Like, have y'all seen some of those side-by-sides of the dancing? Because you know Mike fans was ready to go frame by frame and tell the world that at the 31-minute and 17-second mark, Jafar was kicking with the wrong leg. Well, good luck to those fans, because the attention to detail here is top tier. And not only was Jafar going bar for bar on the moves, a lot of these iconic performances were filmed for the movie at the exact location where Mike performed them at. Motown 25, yeah, filmed right back there in Pasadena. The Thriller short film shot in the exact same lot as Mike. And I'll be remiss if I didn't mention that the day that they shot the Thriller video was also a full moon. Huh? Not saying it's cosmic, but you know? Anyway, to the flip side of things, what could have been better? First of all, this movie at 2 hours and 7 minutes simply cannot be the Michael Jackson movie. As you all should know by now, this story focuses on Michael's formative years and ends at the Bad Tour. This is a movie that's celebrating the family's rise to fame and, of course, Michael's breakout success into the fucking stratosphere. Michael wasn't even really considered truly controversial until about a half decade after this movie ends. So, of course, you'll have the people who are ill-informed saying, oh, this movie just whitewashes the MJ story. It's all kumbaya. Wow, my dad was really mean. I love animals, and I make really good music. Well, I would first say that I don't think it will be wise to downplay any form of physical abuse, but for people who don't know enough about the real MJ, I think it is fair to say that this movie doesn't cover much aside from what we don't already know. I told you we would get back to talking about the Jacksons and American Dream. That movie was about 10 hours long and 15 if you watched it with the commercials. And it still ends 4 whole years before this 2-hour movie does. What I mean is, even though that movie is over 30 years old, fucking yikes, the argument can be made that the Jacksons' American Dream covers almost this same Michael story and in more detail. Now, the American Dream miniseries wasn't a big Hollywood movie, but it was nothing about it that felt low budget, and no one dialed it in on the performances. You got freaking Angela Bassett in there, for God's sake. And I also don't expect today's youth to go out there, dig it up, and watch it. My point is that it exists, and it does a damn good job. That gave our filmmakers the chance to do something no one has managed to do: a high-budget, star-powered look at Michael in the 90s and the 2000s. But perhaps therein lies Michael the sequel. Ever since fans learned that after the delays and reshoots that this movie would end at the bad era, there's been rumblings of a part 2. largely due to the fact that we know there was already a large portion of those years already filmed. Yet there's still been no official announcement of a sequel. Here's what an executive said at Lionsgate just a mere few weeks ago. Here's what Jafar Jackson himself said just a few days earlier.
I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what will come about in that way, and it's definitely in the making.
Is that already done, or you're making it now? Or what is the latest?
It's in the early development right now. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you're ready. You still have to stay in Michael mode.
Yeah, that's right. I do.
And here's what freaking Antoine Fuqua said.
It's like, so we'll see how things go at the box office, right? Because that has a lot to do with the business of it all. If it does really well, and knock on wood, and we're having conversations about the story now, but nothing's solidified until after it opens.
Point is, everybody's talking about that shit. Whatever the situation is, we need it. Not only to tell a more complete story, but to educate the people who likely already knew that Michael Jackson made some fucking bangers, but probably didn't know that he was also the victim of several elaborate attempts at extortion, all surrounded by the completely unfounded accusations that he assaulted children. I'm not running from the smoke, and neither should Graham King and Antoine Fuqua. You need this part one to remind people of the origins, but a part two is the important part. In the same way that while Mike's album history probably isn't most people's favorite album, I've always said it's the most important one he's ever dropped. His daughter and my friend Paris famously had some harsh words on the biopic, talking about how Hollywood is sugarcoating his story. These are her words. Part two is where you can get Paris back on board and let her know, hey, we're telling your dad's story in a real and raw way. Now, I understand showbiz. I understand Hollywood. You gotta sell tickets. And it's much easier to do that by making me feel like I'm actually at the Victory Tour watching the Jacksons reunion. Then to show me an investigative journalism piece about how the biggest pop star in the history of the world had his reputation ruined by a handful of money-hungry families who saw their cushy lives slipping away when Michael started to distance himself from them, and they weren't ready to give him up. Which one of those movies do I want to see? Part two every day of the week. But like I said, it's showbiz. And they know, just like I know, as compelling as I think the evidence is of his innocence, when you peel it all back, there's just so many weirdos out there that have their mind made up and will never see it differently. And if this phenomenon sounds oddly familiar to you, you must be well versed in the current state of American politics. Anyway, like I said, a part two is likely on the way. And I imagine they will address the allegations, but how much they address them is left to be seen. So yeah, don't be surprised when these other journalists come on here and try to gaslight you, saying that the Michael movie is just some happy-go-lucky version of events. For some reason, they'll think that abuse at the hand of a parent, or body dysmorphia, or extreme loneliness and the loss of a childhood, or a near-death burn incident is the telling of a sugar-coated story. Look, some of these journalists I'm talking about just have a narrative that they're hell-bent on pushing. The problem is, they aren't educated enough to paint it accurately or honestly. And most of the non-MJ fan public won't have a reason to push back on it. Luckily for the handful of you Tait's takers still watching this review, you're hearing from a journalist, technically, that is extremely well-versed on this story. And I'm gonna continue to do my part to share the truth. At the end of the day, like I said, this could be a movie that a lot of critics largely hate, and regular audience members genuinely enjoy. I implore you to do what I did with this film. Sit back and enjoy it. And if you like it, you fucking like it. There's so much excellence to be celebrated in this project. This is almost a decade of work by these filmmakers, this cast, this crew. And they're highlighting the most famous person in the history of our planet. He's only less recognizable than Jesus. So yeah, don't let anyone try to take your joy from you and your friends and your family having the time of their fucking lives like I did. But you know who I bet is gonna love this movie? Black people. Cause we just like to go to the movies, be entertained, hear the songs that take us back to a happy place in our lives, and watch this man that simply wanted his music to unite the world. We're no stranger to having our heroes painted in the most negative lights as soon as they reach a level of success that they think dims the light of their heroes. We get it. And after all that, we'll still be leaving these theaters singing and dancing because sometimes that's all you need.
When you do a concert and you see a sea of people singing the lyrics all in unison and holding up candles and you go, wow. You know, it just really makes your heart happy, and that's what really makes you feel like everything's okay.
As always, thanks for checking out Tate's Take. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit that like and that subscribe button in the comments. I would love to know if you're planning on checking out Michael. If you've seen it already, I would love to know what you thought about it. I would love to know if you would like to see more content from me on Michael. And I did the contest for Manifest Michael. The winner's here. I'm waiting for her to respond, but we do have a winner for that, so I can give that person tickets. But they don't respond in like, I don't know, like 24 more hours. Like, I'll pick a new winner, so keep your eyes peeled. I didn't really talk about Berlin that much, but it was so crazy. I'll just say one quick story. I ended up that I was staying, I booked the hotel like on my own. I just picked the hotel. Ended up staying where the entire cast was staying. I was checking in and I was behind Juliana, who plays young Mike. So I knew something was up. The next morning, which was the day of the premiere, I'm eating breakfast. Delicious. But I'm eating breakfast and Jafar walks in with like 3 of his homies. And I'm like, yo, I gotta find him and tell him, hey, I'm gonna be on the red carpet. You gotta stop and say hello to me. So I see him eating his breakfast, kind of far away. I don't bother him, whatever. He leaves. And I'm like, damn. I go to the red carpet, have the time of my fucking life. It's freezing out there, but I'm not even feeling it. I'm like, this is like a dream come true. I couldn't even believe it. I'll put some of those clips maybe in here somewhere, but insane. And I did get to ask Jafar a question, and he was so nice and so thoughtful about it. And I was like, man, that's so cool. The movie plays, we all love it. And the next day, there was a whole bunch of MJ experiences that happened in the morning. They had a press conference, and there was going to be an MJ party that night. So I had like a little gap in the day. So I'm like, all right, let me go back to the hotel and get some dinner. The Michael Jackson party started like 7:30. I'm sitting down at like 7. I ain't trying to go to the party on time. You got to make an entrance. So I'm sitting down eating dinner, and it's like no one really in there. It's like 4 total tables of people eating. The table right next to me is Jackie Jackson and Marlon Jackson eating with some of their homies. And I'm like, oh, wow. Well, I'm going to go say hello to them because I did speak to them the day before on the red carpet. And they'll probably remember me, and it'll be cool. I'll say hello. I'm finishing up my meal. I probably got like 2 bites left. German food, not the best, but whatever. I'm like finishing up. Who walks in by himself? Jafar Jackson, just to go say hello to his uncles. I couldn't believe it. I go, and it's like, there's no fans around, no paparazzi. I'm like, oh, I'm going to go say hello. And I'm like just watching. I was like, I got to wait till he's ready to leave, and then I'll cut him off. He's right next to me, basically. But you can't really, not that close, but it's close. So he starts to turn around to leave. He literally just comes and daps them up, says hello, hugs them and all that. And I'm like, man, this is like some real family shit, bro. You ever stayed at a hotel with a whole bunch of your family and you just like pull up on them? You know what I'm saying? It was just like, man, like a reminder. Like, this is also a real family. I'd be trying to stress that. So he's turning around, and I come up, and I'm like, yo, Jafar, like, talked to you last night on the red carpet. He goes, oh, yes, I remember. And at this point, now I've seen the movie, so I can say, like, yo, you did so good. And I was like, yo, I love the movie. Blew me away, bro. You did an excellent job. He goes, thank you so much. Like, super, you know how this dude is, like a real nice dude. Thank you so much. And I was like, do you think we could take a quick photo? He's like, absolutely. And I'm like, you think Marlon will take it? He's like, yeah, he'll do it. I turned to Marlon Jackson. This is like, what? I'm like, what is my life? I asked Marlon Jackson. I said, Marlon, what's good, bro? Talked to you yesterday. He goes, oh, yeah, good to see you again. I go, I'm Chris. I go, do you mind taking a photo real quick for me and Jafar? He goes, yeah, I got you. Takes my phone, flicks up. I say, Jafar, you the man. Thank you, bro. Marlon goes, take a look at it. Make sure you like it. And my thing is, when I do that for people, I never look at what they took because I'm like, I trust it. Even if I go home and that shit's whack, like, I don't want them to feel like, can you get, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just let it go. It's like a mental, like a psychology thing. I'm like letting them know that whatever they did, I trust them. And I was like, no, it's good, Marlon. I trust you, bro. He goes, no, just make sure. I don't want to make sure that I don't mess it up. I go to the camera roll. This is the photo. He's cracking up laughing. Jafar looks at me and says, "Did he prank us?" I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Give me that phone. Marlon takes 2 real photos. He goes, all right, y'all good. I dap Jafar and I say, "Yo, thank you, bro." I said, "I'll see you soon." And I like go back to my table and like finish my last 2 bites. It's just crazy. This is one of those moments. The whole weekend was excellent, but that just stood out to me. I was like, man, sometimes you gotta just do shit. Thanks for the time, y'all. Peace. I flew from Berlin to London, back to New York, connecting, landed in New York at 5 p.m., flew to Las Vegas at 7 a.m. the next day for CinemaCon, got back to New York Friday night, 11:30 p.m., wrote this review, filming it here on Sunday, and in a couple hours, I'm flying to Los Angeles to attend the Los Angeles premiere of Michael. I'm just so grateful. This is very cool. I'm looking forward to it. The stress of finding another fire outfit, though, I think I'll be all right.